Hey everyone, we're about to jump into a question that scientists have been wrestling with for over 100 years. What does it actually mean to be intelligent? And trust me, it's way more than just an IQ score. This is all about a fascinating scientific quest to figure out how our own minds work.
So just think about it for a second. What does being smart mean to you? Is it about acing a test, solving a really tough puzzle, or is it something totally different? Whatever you just thought of, you've tapped into a huge debate that's been going on for a very, very long time.
And that's the quest we're on today. We're going to look at how our whole idea of being smart has shifted, moving away from just a single number to, well, a whole spectrum of amazing human abilities.
Okay, so let's start at the beginning. We're going back to the early 20th century to a psychologist named Charles Spearman. He was really the first person to say, hey, maybe we can scientifically measure this thing called intelligence, and he had a very clear idea of what it was. So back in 1904, Spearman rolls out his two-factor theory. He basically argued that everything we do with our brains, whether it's math or writing or even music, it's all powered by one single central engine. He called this the G factor for general intelligence. And this one idea, it was a huge deal and pretty much dominated the field for years. So how did Spearman's idea work? Well, think of it like this. The G factor is like your brain's raw processing power. It's this mental energy you're born with, and it doesn't really change. The S factors, on the other hand, are like the specific software you install over time. Your language skills, your ability to navigate, your number skills. For Spearman, G was the master key. The more you had, the better you'd be at everything else.
For decades, everyone just kind of went along with this G-factor model, but then right in the middle of the 20th century, the whole conversation changed. Actually, scratch that. The entire concept of intelligence was about to explode. 180. What on earth could that number mean? Well, it represents a gigantic leap from Spearman's single G factor. Yep, you heard that right. A psychologist named J.P. Guilford just came in and completely shattered the old model. He said intelligence isn't one thing, or even a few things. Nope, he proposed it was a complex structure made up of 180 different separate abilities. What a huge shift in thinking. So you're probably wondering, how in the world did he get to 180? Well, Guilford pictured our intellect as a cube. One side was the contents. That's what you're thinking about, like images or words. Another side was operations. That's how you're thinking, like remembering something or judging it. And the last side was products, the result of your thinking, like finding a relationship between two things. You combine all the possibilities across those three dimensions, and bam, you get 180 unique ways to be smart. Okay, so we've gone from just one factor all the way up to 180. That is a lot. The next big step in this whole quest was to try and bring some order to all this new complexity. And that's where psychologist Howard Gardner enters the story. Gardner's whole idea, and he put it perfectly himself, was that we don't just have one single mind. Instead, he said we have several different minds or intelligences that are pretty independent of each other. The question wasn't how smart are you, but how are you smart? So Gardner came up with 8 core intelligences. Sure, he included the ones we always think about, like being word smart or number smart, but he also said that things like musical talent, physical grace, and social skills were their own distinct forms of intelligence, just as important as the others. His whole point was that every single person has their own unique blend of these strengths. Just think about bodily kinesthetic intelligence, or being body smart. Gardner said this is its own form of genius. It's that incredible mind-body connection you see in a world-class athlete, the beautiful expression of a dancer, or the unbelievably steady hands of a surgeon. And it's the same for interpersonal intelligence, or being people smart. You know, that ability to really understand and connect with other people. That's the key strength of a great leader who can rally a team, a teacher who really connects with their students, or a counselor who can show incredible empathy. All right, our final stop on this quest is with Robert Sternberg. He looked at all these ideas and took them one step further. He wasn't just interested in what intelligences we have, but in how we actually use them out there in the real world. Sternberg came up with what he called the Triarchic theory, basically a 3-part model. First, there's analytical intelligence, what we'd probably call book smarts. Then you've got creative intelligence, which is all about coming up with new, fresh ideas. And finally, and this is a big one, there's practical intelligence, what most of us would call street smarts. So let's see what street smarts looks like. Imagine Ria wants to buy a car. She knows it can be a tricky situation. So what does? She does her homework, she compares all the prices, and she walks into that dealership totally prepared. By using her practical intelligence, she nails the negotiation and drives off with a way better deal. That's street smarts in action.
So, after 100 years of theories and debates, where did we end up? Well, this whole quest has taken us from thinking about a single number to having a much richer, more complex, and frankly, more personal understanding of the human mind.
You can really see the pattern when you lay it out like this. We start in 1904 with one single G factor. Then, boom, in 1967, that idea just explodes into 180 different abilities. Then, in the 80s, brilliant people like Gardner and Sternberg helped us organize all that complexity into models we can actually understand and use. And here's the most important takeaway from all of this. We've moved way beyond thinking about intelligence as just one score that decides your future. Now we see it for what it is, a diverse profile of potential that's unique to every single one of us. Being smart just isn't one size fits all anymore. And that leaves us with one last, really powerful question to think about. If we accept that intelligence isn't one thing, but many, then how should that change our schools, our jobs, and even the way we think about ourselves? It kind of suggests a world where the most important question isn't how smart are you, but how are you smart? Something to chew on. Thanks for joining.